Hey guys, I hope you can hear and see me okay. I want to talk about push-pull steering. Now, if you are going to practice in a parking lot before driver's training, first of all, I don't really recommend it. Uh, if you do and you start talking about steering, please do not teach hand over hand steering. Hand over hand steering is a very natural way to steer. Students learn it very quickly. It's easy to teach. They've probably seen you do it hundreds of times. But if a student learns hand over hand steering, it makes it 10 times harder for them to learn push pull steering. And push pull steering actually evolves very easily into hand over hand steering. So, to give you an example, and I recommend just doing this, grab yourself something round like a plate or something like that, or frisbee. So basically, push-pull steering is you're not going over the 12 o'clock position. Okay, so if I'm turning left, I want to push the car to the left. I want to push the steering wheel to the left. So I start off pushing with my right, pulling with my left, push with my right, pull with my left. That's push-pull steering to do a left turn. Now, as to show you that push-pull can evolve into hand over hand, and why it's so easy for students to learn hand over hand is when you do push-pull, as you push and pull, let's say it's a really tight turn and you miscalculate it, then watch, you push and then you keep pushing, and you reach over and do a pull. Voila, you got hand over hand steering. But if students learn hand over hand steering first, it'll be very hard for them to learn push pull. And one of the benefits of learning push pull is they can learn to let go of the wheel and let it unwind much easier, much quicker. Students who do hand over hand, a lot of times from this position, if I said, okay, let go of the wheel, let it unwind on its own, most of the time they bring it back. They actually bring it back, and sometimes they bring it back and the car whips around, or they go too far, and there's a lot of other negative things that come with if they learn hand over hand first. Another quick reason is a lot of times students need to make a simple adjustment. So let's say they're just drifting a little bit to the right. So if they're drifting a little to the right, all they would really need to do is just a little teeny push and a little teeny pull, and they're back to normal position. But you'd be amazed that if a student is drifting to the right, that they will actually do this full movement. And you might be thinking, well, that's ridiculous. If they're just drifting to the right a little bit, why would they do that? Because that's what they know in their mind. That's that muscle memory there. That's what they've been taught. That when they turn the wheel, that's how far they turn it. A lot of times they don't have the judgment to say, well, it's just a little drift, I'll just do this a little bit. A lot of times, boom. But if they know push-pull steering, they might just start off with a push, and they might stop right here rather than going all the way. And then, of course, a lot of times they'll just do a little teeny push and maybe a little push and a little pull. But if they know hand over hand steering and only hand over hand steering, they'll go too far. There's a lot of other reasons why they should not be taught hand over hand steering right at first. Usually on the third or fourth drive, I give students the flexibility to steer any way they want. And amazingly, they end up steering using push-pull about 95% of the time after that. And that will really, really help. So it is a comfort thing, and it's also a safety thing that they learn push-pull first. So push-pull, basically you're pushing and pulling. So if I'm turning left, push with the right, pull with the left, push with the right, pull with the left. If I'm turning right, I'm going to start off with a push. I'm going to push with the left, pull with the right, push with the left, pull with the right. Okay, sounds simple enough, but believe me, this is extremely tough to teach and to grasp. So if you are going to go down this road of teaching push-pull, please be very, very patient, especially if your student already knows hand over hand. It'll take 10 times longer to teach a student push-pull if they already know hand over hand steering. So if you get frustrated, just call it a day. That's what we do on the first drive anyways, is we really focus on steering. So again, you don't need to do the pre-parking lot drive. It's not necessary, but if you do, try not to teach any hand over hand steering. It will just make it much more difficult. So you've practiced on your little Frisbee or plate or whatever you have, and you've gotten down the motions of it. In fact, sometimes I just have students start off like this and literally do this. It's pretty ridiculous looking, but it's the motions of it that they're getting used to. Sometimes it's easier to start off with a little baby push and a baby pull, which means it's a little baby push, like with your right hand, a little baby push and a little baby pull. Other things I like to say is your hands are actually mirror images of each other, so wherever your right or left hand is, the other hand is in the same spot on the opposite side. So 3 and 9, as this hand comes up to do a push, this hand is also coming up. So theoretically they should meet at the same time at the 12 o'clock position and then continue on. So a right turn, right pushing with the left, pulling with the right. Okay, very tough for students to grasp this. Always recommend a very light grip on it. A lot of students grab it like this. I don't know if you can see that, and then all of a sudden they're just kind of, yeah, it's not too good. And I literally have to say 2 fingers, that's it. Okay, very light. Okay, once you have that, go to your steering wheel. You don't have to turn your steering wheel right away. You can just start off with just saying, okay, imagine we're turning left. So you're going to start off with a push with the right, and pull with the left. So then they get a feel for the steering wheel. And you see, this sliding your hands around the steering wheel will actually get them really used to letting the wheel unwind. That's why they'll learn that technique of letting go of the wheel, letting it unwind through their hands when they do a turn much quicker. So again, if you're turning left, okay, you're going to push with the right, pull with the left. That's why it's important to start around the 3 and 9 position. They don't teach 10 and 2 anymore. It's not necessary, and it made it much harder to do push-pull, because then you're just doing this, and that's kind of ridiculous. If you start off a little low, I'm okay with that. It'll just mean a little more turning. So you push with the right, pull with the left, and a lot of times you don't even need to go up to the 12 o'clock position. It might just be a little push to the right and a little pull, and that's all you need. A right turn would be a push with the left and a pull with the right. Okay, so it's very tough to teach this, but if you are going to practice in a parking lot, do not show them hand over hand. Even showing them one time could implant it in their head, and then it's very tough to teach push-pull steering. Okay, and then of course when you're actually ready to steer, actually turn, again, the car doesn't have to be moving. Now this is not great for the tires, but it is what we do on the first drive. But if you want to do it at home, you can too, in a parking lot. But basically, let's say I'm turning left, so I'm actually going to push and pull, push and pull, push and pull. Okay, kind of like that. And then I say hold it. Now we're going to turn right, so we're going to start off with a left push, push left, pull right, push left, pull right, push left, pull right. So you can actually do that. It's not great for the tires, probably not good for the steering assembly, but you don't have to do it very much. It's usually just a few times, and just so they get used to that. So anyways, bottom line is, try not to practice hand over hand steering. Try to practice push-pull steering. Again, if you have a tough time teaching it and they have a tough time learning, then don't even bother with it. It's not a big deal anyways. The big thing is if you can do the pre-drive at-home training, where they're just sitting in the car, getting used to the gauges, turn signals, getting used to the brake and the gas. Excellent. No need to talk about mirror adjustments, and no need to talk about seat adjustments or anything like that. You can talk about maybe the buttons on how to adjust the seat, and no need to talk about a whole lot of everything else. It's actually very, very simple at-home training, just to get their feet wet, to help them build confidence. And again, if you do go into a parking lot and you start to get into the steering, just please keep in mind that if you teach hand over hand steering, I am not kidding, it will take 10 times longer. For instance, I was teaching a 21-year-old young lady the other day. She has been doing hand-over-hand steering for well over a year. Her steering was not very good, and she couldn't fix it. So we literally had to go into a parking lot, and I would say it was probably 40 to 45 minutes of practice push-pull, because she had so in her mind hand-over-hand steering that it was so incredibly difficult for her to grasp push-pull. But once she started to get it, wow, all of her steering smoothed out, and things are actually becoming much, much better. And she'd been doing hand-over-hand steering for at least a year. So it's easy to say, well, students will eventually get hand-over-hand. A lot of times they don't. A lot of times people will not start to do things differently. If that's the way they were taught, that's the way they practice, then they build a habit of it. Many times in driving, young people will never, ever do anything differently naturally. They will just stick to what they were taught, what they've known. And so to say, well, I'll teach hand over hand and then they'll learn push-pull gradually on their own. Not necessarily, believe it or not. So anyways, sorry this video is so long, but hopefully it helps. Again, I don't recommend practicing in a parking lot, but if you do, stick with push-pull. Look up some other videos on it if you're not sure. Now, if you do look up videos, there's a lot of pull-push ways of steering. I do not teach, well, I do teach pull-push steering, but not till later. It's best to teach push-pull, but there's not very many videos on push-pull. So if you do want to look up videos on push-pull steering, you're probably not going to get a whole lot of videos on that. But it could help a little bit, but that's basically it. If you're turning left, start off with the push, pull. If you're turning right, you're going to start off pushing it that way with the left hand, push, pull, and that's it. So hopefully this helps, and will get your student off to a good, off to the right foot. Again, if we do practice steering techniques for over 30 minutes in a parking lot, that is great. But if we can only practice steering techniques for 20 minutes, that would be even better. Okay, thanks a lot.